4. The nebula's edge drifted through space, deep in the Hrekken system. The display had been blank for 5 minutes. Vilstare glared at the comm controls, silently willing them to do something. No matter how much she wished it, no one called her from Hrekken. "Come on," she said when 10 minutes had passed. "How long does it take to track one pirate ship?" Hrekken was a newer planet, without all the latest tech and toys, but surely the government had basic hyperspace tracking devices. If not, every thief in the galaxy would be hitting this place. When 15 minutes passed, her patience, such as it was, ran out. She pushed the comm button, opening a channel to the authorities on Hrekken. An image took over the blankness of her display. A male Chokyi, his dark fur neatly groomed. "What's the problem, Officer Billa?" She pressed her wide lips together, wishing she had teeth to grind. "You contacted my superiors over an hour ago, sir. I've been here 15 standard minutes. The thieves are long gone. If I'm to have any chance of finding them, I need to start now." "We are aware of that, Officer Billa. We're working as fast as we can." His voice was perfectly bland. Vilstare decided she hated him. "Are your systems malfunctioning?" "Everything is working fine. Please maintain your current position. We'll call you when we have an update." The screen turned blank as he hung up. "Why, that stupid little Vilstare clapped her lips down on the rest of it. She was an operative. She wasn't supposed to swear. At least not in public. Which didn't mean she couldn't enjoy a fantasy about the gray gods slowly killing the man. Vilstare took a moment to do just that. Calmer now, she opened the commland to HQ on Duresi. Yafan answered immediately, even though it was late at night on Duresi. His lips drooped over his sharp teeth, and his ears tilted down. "What is it now?" "No one Hrekken will tell me anything." That sounded whiny. Vilstare scowled. "Do they want the thieves to get away?" "Who the fuck knows?" Yafan shook himself, a few bits of fur coming off to stick to his neat uniform. "Sorry, Vilstare. We've been inundated. I'll see if I can manage anything. We might have to send a different operative." Vilstare clamped her mouth shut to keep her jaw from falling open. "Someone else? What for? No one else is nearby, and my record is excellent." At least the whine was gone from her voice, replaced by fury. "It isn't your fault. I wish there was someone closer to you. You can't change how people think, no matter how stupid. It's not your fault, Vilstare, and this won't stain your record, I promise." Before Vilstare could ask, Khan hung up. Was something wrong with Hrekken? Besides questionable tech and morons in charge? She tapped the jewel at her temple. At her mental command, information on Hrekken came up. Since she was inside her ship, the information appeared on the display. Before Vilstare could do more than peruse the list of topics, another call came from the planet. "You found them?" she asked, answering. It was a Flimlet on the other end this time, the gills expanding and retracting as he breathed. "Great, Officer Billa? We think we've found a clue, but we need an expert opinion. Can you come down to help?" "Of course." The coordinates for a landing site appeared on the display after pushing aside the information on Hrekken. It was close to one of the government buildings in the capital. Vilstare grabbed the controls and flew towards the indicated coordinates. When she approached the atmosphere, it occurred to her that, if she had to stop and consult first, the thieves would get even further away before she could pursue them. Well, she couldn't follow them without information anyway. She would have to hope that the thieves were too stupid to make multiple jumps through hyperspace. If they deviated from the usual route or made odd stops, the nebula's edge's computer wasn't equipped to track them. Clouds parted and a large city spread out over a savanna. Strange that she could see wildlife. Most cities had the odd park and not much else. Hrekken was a new world. The inhabitants must not have had time to clear out all the annoying shrubbery yet, and the associated animals. The buildings hunched near the ground, the tallest barely 40 stories. Vilstare wondered why anyone would want to live here, so far from everything else. It was pretty, she supposed. Most worlds with breathable atmospheres had blue skies. Hrekken had an orange sky, giving everything an odd tinge. Lots of nature lovers must live here, Vilstare decided. The parking garage rose a block from the center of the Capitol, with wide openings along the top levels so that ships could enter easily. Vilstera picked a spot on the east side where the roof was lower. Her ship was a cruiser, so she didn't need much room. No one was waiting for her. Frowning, Vilstera loosened her restraints and switched the ship's engines to idle. She didn't shut it down. She might need to leave in a hurry. The skin on the back of her neck turned damp, as it always did when she felt nervous. Having no one to meet her shouldn't be enough to trigger her instincts. Something else was wrong. Before leaving the ship, she made sure that her blaster was secure in the holster at her hip. It was turned to stun, as it usually was. Vilstera briefly toyed with the thought of changing the setting, but her training and her experience changed her mind. Whatever was going on here wouldn't be improved if she threatened to kill someone. She'd been through plenty of dangerous situations before, and she had never yet killed another person. She didn't plan to change that now. The parking garage was empty, with only a few ships on the far side. Vilstera's step echoed on the concrete floor. She kept a grip on her blaster as she went upstairs. First rule of dangerous situations: never take the lift. Garbage lay strewn in the corners of each landing, and Vilstera wished her nose wasn't so good. Most species wouldn't be bothered by the spill, but she was. By the time she reached the ground floor, she still hadn't seen anyone. Was it a holiday on Cricket? To her relief, when she left the parking garage, she saw people wandering on the sidewalks. Small, inner-atmospheric ships flew low to the ground, skimming the heads of the people passing underneath. Though she waited a few moments while looking around, she still didn't see anyone here to meet her. The government building was down the block. If they wouldn't come to her, she'd go to them. Vilstera started down the sidewalk. In her years as a Grey operative, she'd visited many worlds. All of them were Grey or neutral, established and registered for centuries. This was the first newly registered world she'd ever visited. She had known to expect a few strange things, but she didn't anticipate the way everyone stared at her. The people on the street stopped to gape at her. Ships overhead slowed down and turned so that people could stare through the windows. One human woman made a rude gesture, then flew low so that Vilstera had to duck. What in the hells is wrong with this place? She picked up her pace. She wanted to be out of here as soon as possible. When she reached the door of the government building, she received her answer. "Ill-gotten," one of the guards said when he saw her. Vilstera froze, one foot a few inches in the air. "Excuse me? You're ill-gotten, aren't you? You have to be. No natural person looks that ugly." Her hand clenched around her blaster. If there hadn't been so many people about, she might have shot the guard. "I am Grey Officer Villa, on assignment to assist your government with the apprehension of the thieves who broke into the treasury. I was called over to help with the investigation." Years of professionalism kept her voice calm, but it was a struggle. The guard shook his head, his antenna waving with the motion. "That can't be right. We would never ask someone like you for help." The people nearby had stopped to watch, murmuring softly to one another. Even the robots who helped guard stared at her, their lights flickering in a regular pattern. When she spoke to him, Yafan said something about how the people of Frecken thought, and that whatever happened here wouldn't be held against her. Apart from the light and a few painfully primitive worlds, she'd never heard of anyone prejudiced against ill-gotten, at least not openly. The Flumlet who called. Who had he been? Had she checked his credentials? Had she even checked the location from where he called? A prank call? Or worse, a call to set her up for this humiliation? Since she was unique in the galaxy, at least she didn't show her embarrassment in ways that other people could spot. No one who wasn't her friend could guess her body language, and no one here would ever be her friend. Moisture hung between her fingers, but not enough to stop dripping. The idiots here would probably mistake that for an attack. Even if the call from the Flimlet had been a sham, the Grey police had still sent her out here to assist. She was on the planet already. Maybe if she made a nuisance of herself, she could finally get some information. "I am here on behalf of the Grey, sir. Do you intend to deny me?" He opened his beak, but nothing came out. No, he said after a few more attempts. The Grey was the most powerful force in the galaxy. Vilster gave thanks for that often and fervently. Then you will lead me to the treasury so that I may offer assistance. Fine. He shifted his shoulders and glared at the other guards, who wore two wide swords. It's down the street, ma'am. With steps that were too rigid and with his neck feathers sticking out, the guard led her away from one of the buildings towards another. Vilster spotted the sign, her jewel making it larger. She should have started at the treasury. That way she could have avoided some of this annoyance. Though she received plenty more looks during the short walk, she pretended to be oblivious. At least no one shouted with the guard nearby. She waited a few paces away to be polite while the first guard talked with those outside the treasury, explaining her presence. Vilster tried not to hear, but it was hard to miss the first guard saying, "She's ill-gotten, so she has no manners. If we don't let her in, she might attack us." She had to force her hand away from her blaster. Did he think she was a rabid animal? Fine, her parents were different species, but she'd been conceived and grown in a laboratory. She was raised the same as everyone else. No, she'd been raised better. Unlike these assholes, she had manners. When the first guard came to fetch her, a human guard accompanied him. Vilster briefly thought a human might be better. Like most ill-gottens, Vilster was half-human. Human genes mixed better with alien genes. The resulting children had a much higher rate of survival. The look on the face of the human guard told her in advance that her hopes would not be enough. Only officials from Hrekin are allowed on the crime scene, officer, the human guard said, his freckles bright in the sunlight. Your superiors requested assistance from the Grey. As a newly registered Neutrowald, perhaps you do not appreciate what that means. You're involved in politics now, sir, and I can't leave until my mission is complete. Or perhaps you'd like to explain things to the Grey High Command. His fair skin turned paler, and Vilster repressed a smile. That would teach him to mess with the Grey. No one wanted the attention of the Grey High Command. You will not touch anything at the scene. Without waiting for a response, he pivoted and marched into the building. Vilster followed him. Her earlier guide stayed behind, presumably to head back to his post. Everyone inside the treasury looked official, dressed in colorful suits and with their jewels displaying identification. They all stopped and stared at Vilster, as much for her uniform as for anything else. Assholes they might be, but at least they knew how to respect a Grey officer. A few hours ago, the thieves broke into the vault under the treasury, taking physical currency, old coins and jewels, and a number of objects of historical significance. When Yafan sent Vilster here, he gave her a list of everything the thieves took. She skimmed the list earlier on her flight to Hrekin. The remnants of the vault door hung to the side, barely clinging on. Scorch marks littered it, the walls outside, and the inside of the vault. The thieves hadn't been quiet. It was early morning when they struck, and people had been here. Though the bodies had already been taken away, Vilster saw the outlines on the ground of where those bodies fell. 4 of them. Never mind that she hated everyone at Hrekin. She would find these thieves and bring them to justice. They were murderers now, which no one thought to tell her before. Why didn't you mention this? She asked, waving at the outlines. Or did you not think the Grey needed to know? The question was addressed to her escort and to everyone else within hearing distance. When Worlds contacted the Grey, they were expected to provide all the necessary information. A world that asked for help but refused to offer intelligence would soon be refused aid by the Grey. An older Nwist stepped out of the vault. He wore an expensive suit that strained over the 2 segments of his torso. Bands of gold glittered at his neck, his 4 wrists, and his 4 ankles. He loomed high over Vilster and looked down a prominent nose at her. You are Officer Billa. Yes, sir. You are liaising with us to find and apprehend the thieves. You will bring them in alive so that they can stand trial. In case I was not clear, they will stand trial here, not Teresi. Their crimes were against Hrekin, not the Grey. Vilster's skin grew moister at the nape of her neck, a reaction she couldn't help. His tone angered her more than anything else. So, you thought I didn't need to know? People who are willing to kill once are willing to kill a second time. That's something I need to know as I track them down, assuming anyone ever tells me where to look. Though she had to crane her head back to look him in the eye, Vilstare didn't lose eye contact. Neither did she blink. Thanks to her mixed genes, she always won staring contests. If you were in such a hurry to apprehend the thieves, you would have stayed in your ship in orbit. I was asked to come down here. The Noist narrowed his eyes. By whom? She didn't know who, and she probably shouldn't have come down. She wasn't about to admit that. A call came from this building, sir. Whatever your feelings about me personally, you cannot ignore me, not unless you wish to offend the entire Grey. Do you know where the thieves are, or at least their trajectory? The Noist glanced to his side. A female Parleni appeared, a jewel on both bald temples. Here are the coordinates, sir. She tapped the jewel on her right temple. Her thick lips curled into a sneer as she stared at Vilstare. She, of all people, shouldn't judge Vilstare's appearance. Vilstare was half Parleni. Vilstare pressed her jewel in turn, receiving the information. The thieves' trajectory was Walgic 6, a neutral station in deep space. As a Grey operative, Vilstare could visit any neutral world or station without waiting for permission. She had to register her presence and mission with the local government, but they would allow her to work without oversight or interference. She hadn't needed permission to land on Reckon. She'd only stayed so long in her ship so she could start her pursuit sooner. Thank you. As soon as you uncover additional information, you will pass it on to me. Likewise, I will keep you updated on my hunt. That was standard practice, but these people clearly knew nothing and thus needed the reminder. With a quick salute, Vilstare turned to head out of the building. Wait, officer, the official said. She had made it 2 whole steps. Seething silently, she pivoted to face him again. The longer I wait, the further away the thieves will get. They will not have gone far. They want you to catch up with them. Vilstare twitched. What? How do you? The Noist ignored her, looking at the Parleni again. Is Kyran Jorn available? Yes, sir. He's in the capital. Excellent. Have him meet us outside. The official strode past Vilstare towards the lift. His forelegs ate up the distance with a regular clatter, and Vilstare had to jog to keep up with him. The 3 of them, along with 4 guards, rode the elevator up. Parleni turned her head to make the call. Vilstare took a few deep breaths before speaking. Sir, having a local accompany me is not standard practice. As you saw, these thieves are willing to kill to get what they want. I cannot guarantee the safety of Kyran Jorn if he comes with me. No need, officer. Bean Jorn has a very capable bodyguard. Anyway, he'll be chasing down the thieves regardless of what you want, so you might as well travel together. That sounded like something with a lot of history. Vilstare tried again. My ship is registered to the Grey. Only military personnel, operatives, military-adjacent persons, and persons of interest to the case are allowed on board. She could bend those rules if she wanted to. Order was preferred, but knew how to adjust when the situation demanded it. At the moment, she didn't want to bend the rules. She was counting on them, actually. Bean Jorn has a deep interest in this case, officer, so it's not a problem. Here we are. The lift doors beeped as they opened, and the official stepped out first, one of the guards hurrying to keep pace with him. Vilstare wished she had a smaller ship because then she'd have an additional excuse. As it was, her ship would fit 2 additional people. They stopped in a large foyer before the main doors to the building. Columns lined the circumference of the foyer, with fruit sculpted along the tops and bottoms. Every little noise echoed off the marble floors, but at least there weren't many people about, most instead lingering at the sides and hallways that led off the foyer. Vilstare had no idea who Kyran Jorn was. When she spotted a group of reporters mobbing in one place, her stomach sank. Oh, hells no. Not a celebrity. She put up with constant insults to her genetics rather than a celebrity. A year ago, she had to interview a celebrity for information on a case. That had been bad enough. She couldn't imagine having to work in close quarters with one. There he is, the official said with a smile. He looked right at the reporters because sometimes the gods hated Vilster. At his approach, the reporters stepped back but didn't move away. Vilster saw what had commanded their attention, and her heart skipped a beat. She knew that man. In Holosens, he went by Koryanran Joranran, and he was one of the biggest stars in the galaxy. He'd been in so many Holosens. Vilster's brain helpfully supplied a list of the best ones, along with how many times she drooled over his performances. Even bad Holosens were elevated when he was in them. Many people agreed that he was the best actor alive, a sentiment with which Vilster hardly agreed. His dark hair fell messy and perfect across his brow as he turned to see them, his blue eyes electric. He gave the official a smile so white it would blind a light path. Vilster wished he looked at her that way. Counselor Grisher, excellent. Any news on the thieves? We know their trajectory. Officer Billa is from the Grey to help us find them and bring them to justice. The Noist gestured towards Vilster. Joranran turned his attention to her, and Vilster's knees went weak. He was actually looking at her. At her. Hello? How the word ever made it out of her mouth, she didn't know. Thank you for letting me accompany you, officer. I want to be able to reclaim my property as soon as possible. And my bodyguard will be very helpful, I'm sure. He inclined his head towards a bulky Drolthan who hovered beside him. Vilster barely noticed, as that would involve looking away from Joranran. Of course, whatever you want. Wonderful. His smile dipped an inch. That was enough to make Vilster worried. Anything that kept the smile from being perfect was something that should be fixed, or permanently removed. Joranran cleared his throat and leaned closer, voice pitched low. Will we be able to manage on our own? Of course we will. Why wouldn't we? Joranran glanced at the Noist and shrugged. Well, I'm sure the Grey trains all its operatives, and I would never think to say anything against the Grey. It's just, well, will you be able to overcome the difficulties? What difficulties? So long as we have coordinates, we can track the thieves through hyperspace. If the thieves left the normal routes, they might have trouble, but Vilster could always contact the Grey for assistance and equipment. No, I meant with... Joranran slid nearer still, and Vilster knew she'd never been happier in her whole life. Though he spoke quietly, it was loud enough for the reporters to pick up the conversation. Will you have problems? With your genetic limitations, I mean. Vilster's mouth opened and answered without input from her brain. I'm just a stupid ill-gotten, but I'm sure with your help the thieves will be found. How wonderful! Joranran turned his smiles back to Max for the cameras. When he turned away, sense returned to Vilster. Her stomach turned, and she had to clench her jaw to keep it closed. What in the hells had just happened? She would never, never say anything like that. It didn't matter who asked. She would never mock herself. She worked too hard to get respect to do that. Heat filled her, and she wished she could disappear. In one moment of celebrity-induced stupidity, she'd completely undercut herself, other ill-gottens, and the Grey. After that level of stupidity, she didn't deserve to be working on this case.